Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Family Don't End with Blood. Cast and fans on how Supernatural has changed lives. Edited by Lynn S. Zubernis. Narrated by Gabra Zackman and Graham Halstead. Introduction. Lynn Zubernis. When we think of the sorts of things that help people change for the better, we might imagine that perfect self-help book that contains the heretofore well-kept secret to happiness. Snap! You're a changed person, just like the title claimed. Or maybe changing for the better means hitting bottom and turning your life around, like so many Hollywood films contend. Maybe it's finding Prince or Princess Charming. Or maybe it's finding a good therapist. Most of us don't think of a television show as something that helps people change for the better. I certainly didn't. I make my living helping people. As a psychologist, I have to understand what makes people happy and what makes them want to hide under their bed covers and never come out again. I've been privileged to learn from countless inspiring individuals who had a lot of crap fall in their paths and yet were able to eventually kick it out of their way or slog through it and keep going. In the process, I've learned quite a bit about human nature and what we yearn for in that constant search for things that make us feel okay about ourselves and everyone else. Belonging and acceptance, self-expression and creativity, a sense of excitement. Something to ignite our passion, inspire our intellect, and validate our emotions. These are the things humans long for. They are the things that make us happy. For most of my career, I never thought of a television show, or a film, or a book, or a band, as something capable of offering all those things. That was before I fell in love with a television show and learned about the incredible community known as fandom. Falling in love with a TV show was unexpected. It wasn't even one of those programs that everyone is watching, which could be anything from Game of Thrones to The Bachelor, depending on your experience of everyone. No. This was a sci-fi fantasy genre show on a second-tier network that didn't know quite what to do with it. Supernatural. As most listeners of this book no doubt already know, Supernatural follows demon-hunting brothers Sam and Dean Winchester as they travel the United States in a beautiful black '67 Chevy Impala, carrying on the family business, saving people, hunting things. The show has been around so long that it premiered on the long-defunct WB network back in 2005 and has been on its successor network, the CW, ever since. It's a scary show about monsters and the apocalypse, and it's also a surprisingly emotional show about love and family and the need to always keep fighting no matter the odds. The combination has brought Supernatural unexpected and enduring popularity. Doesn't hurt that it stars actors who are gorgeous and talented enough to make you wonder whether they're real. I fell in love the way you do when you're 13 and falling for the first time, head over heels, all at once, so fast I was dizzy with it. When I came up for air, I was mystified. What was happening to me? At first I felt silly. Was it really okay for me, a grown woman, a mom, a professor, to put aside my briefcase and research papers and oh-so-serious responsibilities to binge-watch an entire season of a science fiction TV show? To scour the web for pictures of its stars? To read lots and lots of fan fiction? And then to spend less time writing textbooks and more time writing fan fiction myself? I wasn't the only one asking those questions. My partner was asking, my children were asking, my colleagues were asking. Especially when I threw caution to the wind and started flying across the country to go to fan conventions. "You're going where?" was a constant refrain. But meeting other fans, both in person and in the, at the time, cloistered and secret world of online fandom, turned out to be as life-changing as discovering Supernatural in the first place. The show and the fandom were a gateway to a sort of self-discovery that I thought I had put aside decades earlier. Like many works of fantasy, the world of Supernatural is a place fans can escape to. Escape itself has benefits, as long as you manage to poke your head out from the fantasy long enough to hold down your job or take care of your family or hang out with your best friend. But Supernatural offers more. Some fans have grown up with this show, their teenage infatuations evolving into adult love affairs. Some fans have navigated midlife crises with Sam and Dean. In the Winchesters and their rebel angel friend Castiel, many fans have found the inspiration and courage to fight the monsters and demons that exist in real life. In a television show. While television is now considered a respectable medium, not all television programs are viewed equally. Perhaps PBS can offer some educational value, but popular culture still carries an implication of being unimportant and frivolous, meant for mindless consumption. Critically acclaimed series like Orange is the New Black or Breaking Bad are accorded some respect, but genre shows like Supernatural are less likely to warrant serious consideration. Being a fan also raises eyebrows. The stereotypes of the loser fanboy living in his parents' basement and the hysterical fangirl fainting in the presence of her idol have been less prevalent in the last decade, but still persist in mainstream media. Many people, when they think of fans, still think of the negatives: bad decisions, out-of-control emotions, overspending. The media snicker at fans cosplaying at Comic-Con, or lining up for 3 days to get tickets to the new Star Wars movie, or screaming when One Direction comes on stage. Being a fan is often seen as frivolous at best, and immature, or even dangerous, at worst. After more than a decade of being a fan and researching fans, I know that's not the real story. Can fans fall prey to bad choices? Sure. So can accountants and stockbrokers and physicians and hairdressers, and everyone else. Are there risks to being passionate about something? Sure, but there are also benefits. It's healthy for us to pursue the things that bring us joy, and to allow ourselves to experience those positive feelings. It's good for us to care about the things we love, about ourselves, about others. Being a fan brings with it access to fandom, the community of fellow fans who care about one another. Within that uniquely supportive community, a surprising amount of change is possible. Within the safe space of the fan community, I discovered that fans were shockingly real with one another. As a woman, I found this remarkable. There are still few places in which women are comfortable expressing their genuine hopes and fears and angers and sadness, let alone talking about something like sex. Within the fan community, we forged relationships, explored our sexualities, shared and understood and ultimately normalized past traumas and losses. Contrary to the popular opinion that fans were lonely losers, I found an intelligent, diverse community of people who just also happened to be fans. Within that community, I found many of the things that being a psychologist has taught me all of us are looking for: validation, acceptance, self-expression, belonging. I also found a community rich with creativity and about as far from mindless consumption as you can get. Instead, there were amazing works of fan fiction, fan vids, mashups, fan art, photography, and essays that rivaled what academics were publishing. The passion that gets judged so harshly from the outside was being channeled into creative expression and then shared with the rest of the community. For free. Far from being pathological, all that passion and imagination and self-expression seemed healthier than the current state of many of the clients I saw on a daily basis. Indulgence in imagination and fantasy can be a healthy and positive part of life, and passion is what makes life worth living. Show me someone without passion, and I'll show you someone I'm worried about. I also worry when people feel isolated and alone. We all need to feel we belong somewhere. It's left over from the early days of humanity when being kicked out of the group literally meant you were going to die. When we feel alone, that evolutionarily ingrained panic sets in, along with a whopping dose of depression. Fandom, I found, was an antidote. Within the diverse global community of people who share a passion, fans establish relationships and find acceptance. The norms for self-expression are vastly different in fandom. There is more encouragement to be genuine, even if who you are isn't exactly who Mom and Pop said you should be. Once you've taken the plunge and spoken out as your real self, the validation that comes back can be life-changing. Identity development, belonging, validation. A support system, intellectual stimulation, creativity. It turns out that being a fan of a television show can be the source of all those positive, healthy things psychology tells us we need. Watching your favorite television show, with its familiar and beloved characters, can produce the same good-feeling brain chemicals as being at a family dinner. When whatever or whomever we fan succeeds, fans experience an endorphin rush as powerful as the actual players on a winning sports team. Far from being unimportant and frivolous, the shows, and sports teams and films and books and bands and actors we fan are an integral part of our identity, contributing to self-concept and self-esteem. The personal stories fans share in this book are examples of the self-expression and good feelings that being part of fandom, whether for a television show or a film or a book or a band, makes possible. They are courageous, inspiring, and powerful. For many television shows, that would be the whole story. But not for Supernatural. Early research on fandom described and pathologized the so-called parasocial relationship between stars and fans, a reference to the one-way nature of that relationship. The fan might feel like they know the celebrity, but the celebrity doesn't know the fan exists. Not so for Supernatural. Over the past decade plus, the cast, and the writers, producers, directors, and crew have come to know the fans. Not just through Twitter and Facebook exchanges, which happen with many shows, but in person. Supernatural has the most extensive convention calendar of any television show in history. Last year, there were more than 20 Supernatural conventions all over the world. That's more than even Star Trek had in the show's convention heyday. The reciprocal relationship that has developed as a result is unusual. There is rarely such a significant amount of face-to-face contact between fans and the talent, and nothing breaks down barriers and eliminates stereotypes like interacting with another human being. Despite the conventions maintaining boundaries and a celebrity-fan hierarchy, the fans and actors involved have gotten to know one another. With that familiarity comes trust and respect. The same thing has happened online, as fans and actors have interacted on Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr and Snapchat. The Supernatural cast members are unusual for the extent of their willingness to engage with fans online, both in serious conversations and in a shared sense of humor. This greater-than-average amount of contact at conventions and on social media has brought fans and actors closer. When both cast and fans call themselves the SPN family, they all mean it. This unusual level of reciprocity has increased the show's ability to influence its fans. Some of that influence is found in the show's canon, through which writers and producers regularly speak to fans. Supernatural doesn't take itself too seriously, but it does take its fans' passion seriously. In tongue-in-cheek meta-episodes, Supernatural has shown its gratitude even as it affectionately poked fun at fandom and at itself. Sometimes that influence is found in the actors' direct communications on social media. Lead actors Jared Padalecki, Jensen Ackles, and Misha Collins have a hugely successful mental health awareness campaign that uses their characters' mantras to encourage fans to remain hopeful and stay alive. Always keep fighting. You are not alone. A reminder that I am enough. Collins's Random Acts charity has brought fans together as a force for good in the world, and a celebration of being weird in keeping with fandom's challenge of normalcy, in the annual Gishwas scavenger hunt. Cast members Kim Rhodes and Brianna Buckmaster spread the message that it's okay to be wayward AF with their charity campaign. The show inspires the fans. The actors inspire the fans. The fan community supports one another. But even that is not the whole story. During the past decade of researching fandom and Supernatural, I met tens of thousands of fans. I was witness to many powerful stories of fans whose lives have been changed by their love of this show and the support of the fandom. I heard story after story of how Supernatural changed, and in some cases saved, lives. Fans talked about finding themselves in the fan community, rediscovering a spark of creativity, finding the courage to change jobs or partners or cities, or to leave the house for the first time in years, to get and stay sober when nothing else had helped, to leave a cult behind and start to live in the world again, to stay alive when they had decided there was no reason for living. They talked about their passion for Sam and Dean and Castiel, and how their favorite characters inspired them to do all these things. I nodded because I understood. After all, I had been changed too. But, call it celebrity tunnel vision or reading too many academic articles on that silly parasocial relationship thing, I had never stopped to consider that the impact could be equally life-changing on both sides of the fence. A year or so ago, Jared Padalecki asked if I was planning to write another book about the show. I said maybe, because I wanted to share all those powerful fan stories I'd heard. I wanted the world to know that a television show could be a positive, healthy, life-changing force in people's lives. To my surprise, Jared said that his life had been changed too, and he wanted to share his story as much as the fans wanted to share theirs. I contacted the other supernatural actors I'd gotten to know over the years. Had their lives also been changed by their experiences on the show and with the fandom? The answer was a resounding yes. Suddenly, this was a very different book. Not every television show is life-changing for the actors who work on it. No other television show's years on the air have been accompanied by a parallel venture that has put the cast and the fans in contact so intimately and so often. In a decade of frequent conventions and constant online conversation, the show's cast has been as affected by the fans as the fans have been by them. The fan essays in this book make clear the many ways in which the show has been life-changing. The essays written by the actors, who bring the show to life, do the same. That might be surprising on the surface. Sometimes we forget that celebrities are people too, with the same hopes and fears and insecurities we all have. We're all looking for the same things from life: a safe space in which to find ourselves, a support system when we're afraid to fail, the freedom to discover our own identity and celebrate our own creativity, a sense of belonging, and some good friends beside us on life's journey, the opportunity to heal ourselves by helping others. The actors redefined themselves within the reciprocal relationships of the fan community just as the fans did, and on two notable occasions, an actor is alive today because of the connections made through the show and the fandom. One of the take-home messages of this book is that maybe we're not so different after all. Both fans and actors, each writing on their own and without any knowledge of what others were writing, said the exact same things. Like so many of us, fans and actors alike struggled with the nagging suspicion that they weren't good enough, that they were different. That sense of difference had kept them quiet their whole lives, until Supernatural and the acceptance of the SPN family gave them the courage to confront that insecurity. Fans Karen Cook and Lorena Aker, and actors Osric Chow, Kim Rhodes, Brianna Buckmaster, and Ruth Connell all found their voices and dared to speak up and try new things, even if they weren't perfect. As Kim Rhodes writes, "The truth is, I showed a bunch of strangers the broken, fragile, cussing, awkward, overly energetic creature that is my heart, and they said yes and quit being strangers. I found the identity I had been searching for." Supernatural's message that it's okay to be different, reinforced within the fan community, has helped many fans figure out who they are, or who they want to be. Kim Pryor and Sabrina Greenwood Briggs confronted their identity crises head-on within the safe space of fandom, and with the inspiration of Supernatural's characters, they found the courage to reinvent themselves and rediscover their passions. Actors Matt Cohen and Gil McKinney also found encouragement within the fandom to be themselves. As Matt writes to the fandom, "I am so grateful you have allowed me to find me." Fan Lucy Schneider and Supernatural special effects supervisor Adam Williams also discovered who they really were, and discovered each other. The two found love across two continents through their shared association with Supernatural, and dared to pursue it despite the odds. The international support system that is the SPN family has been, for both fans and cast, a source of strength. A photo op at a con helped fan Stacey Anderson come to terms with her grief after losing her mother. Fan Sherry Chen's life was turned upside down with a cancer diagnosis. She found healing within the Supernatural fandom and inspiration to keep going in the show's story. After actor Rachel Miner's multiple sclerosis diagnosis, the supernatural fandom helped her rediscover a sense of purpose. One of the best ways to heal ourselves is to help others, and Supernatural has frequently been an inspiration to do just that. Fan Carla Truxall, devastated by her nephew's suicide, was inspired by Supernatural's message of never giving up to start SPN Survivors, which helps others who are overwhelmed by anxiety and depression. Actor Jim Beaver calls the opportunity to give back the supernatural effect, and considers it the greatest gift of his public life. The richly drawn characters on Supernatural, who have fought demons both literal and figurative, are an inspiration to fans to fight their own demons. Fan Lydia Cyrus was inspired by the character Bobby Singer, played by Jim Beaver, a fellow survivor of abuse, whose refusal to stay silent convinced Lydia to confront her own demons. Just as powerful a supernatural effect as Jim Beaver himself experienced. Claudine Hummel was inspired by the character Castiel, an angel who is a misfit both in heaven and on earth, and by the actor who plays Castiel, Misha Collins. Following his lead in celebrating death to normal and the importance of random acts of kindness, Claudine discovered the power of making a difference through giving to others. Many fans have found inspiration in the character of Sam Winchester, played by Jared Padalecki. Sam never felt like he fit in, with his family or with friends, as the Winchesters constantly moved from town to town. His identity struggles and subsequent fall into addiction, rage, and depression are things many fans grapple with as well. Fan Hallie Bingaman was so inspired that she became sober for Sam. As she struggled to hang on to sobriety, Hallie reminded herself that Sam had also been an addict. If he could get through detox and stay clean, she told herself, she could too. Fan Kristen Ludwig also related to Sam. Like him, she struggled with self-doubt, along with crippling anxiety. Her world had narrowed down to 4 walls she found difficult to leave, until a supernatural convention came to town. The desire to meet Jared trumped the panic, and Kristen ventured out despite her fear. Not only can a television show change lives, but it can also save them. Both fans and actors credit the show and the fandom for literally helping them stay alive. After a traumatic childhood in a repressive cult, Breda Waite found the Winchester story gave her the courage to think of herself as an individual. Breda and her sister credit Supernatural and the SPN family with saving their lives. Actor Rob Benedict suffered a stroke while at a convention, surviving only because of his relationships with his fellow cast members. And, like many fans, Rob turned to the SPN family for support on his road to recovery. Fan Sky Armstrong credits Supernatural and Sam Winchester with bringing her back from the brink of hopelessness and convincing her to keep going. Planning to end her life, she went to a Supernatural convention as a last hurrah. There, Jared Padalecki saw something in her face that others had missed, asking her the question no one else had. "Are you okay?" She answered honestly, and with his encouragement, began to fight for herself. Fan Lorena Acker also found inspiration in Jared's portrayal of Sam, and had written to tell him so. Months later, when Jared himself was having a hard time, reading Lorena's letter helped him rediscover a sense of purpose. Padalecki, whom so many fans credit for changing, or saving, their lives, has been just as affected by the show and the fandom. He shares his battles with depression and his fight for self-acceptance. And when Jared was at his lowest point, it was his friends and the support of the fandom that saved him. So much for that one-way parasocial relationship. So much for the idea that television can offer nothing to viewers and fans but a fleeting escape from reality. So much for the idea that being a fan is something negative and dangerous. The personal stories shared in this book, by both fans and actors, make clear television and fandom's potential for positive change through inspiration, support, hope, and belonging. Improbable as it sounds, a television show really can change lives.
Sitting Shotgun with Jensen Ackles. How much has my experience on Supernatural and with the Supernatural fandom changed me? A lot. I'll give you just one example. Before Supernatural, the idea of doing a meet and greet, something I do all the time at conventions, where a small group of 20 or so fans ask me questions, would have freaked me out. Before this experience, even at family events, I was anxious. I remember at my brother's wedding when I had to give a toast, I was so nervous it was like I had cotton mouth. I couldn't even speak. I remember thinking, what's wrong with me? I was already a professional actor by that time, so I couldn't understand why I couldn't just get up and give a toast. It was like bizarro Jensen. The thing is, on television you have a script. You don't have to be your real self when you're acting, unlike at that wedding. So that was bad enough. And then came the first awards ceremony that I had to do. I was so nervous I felt like I was just going to pass out right on the stage. Even though I knew the lines, and they were on a teleprompter, it didn't matter. I felt like I was about to faint just trying to do that. Fast forward to 10 years later, Supernatural and my experience with fans and doing conventions has changed that for me. And it's because of the interaction between us. I think Jared and Kim and Brianna and everyone else would say the same thing. It's because of the flow of love between us. We get so much energy from you. It's fuel. That back and forth of emotion between us is fuel for me. And that emotion is genuine. It's real. That makes all the difference. Recently, Jared and I presented at the Saturn Awards, and it was a completely different experience than my first award ceremony. It was comfortable, like we were at a convention with all of you. We were so comfortable that we went off script and started joking around, even with William Shatner himself right there. What we have with you, the fandom, has transferred over to the rest of my life. That comfort has carried over. You see, you're not strangers anymore. You're not strange to me. Of course, we're all a little strange, and we take the little bit of strange in each of us and mix those little bits all up together, all of us, and that's why we love the relationship we have. You're family, and you've changed me.
I found my tribe. Karen Cook. One of my all-time favorite quotes is from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. A little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men. Prior to discovering this little show called Supernatural, the Joker's question, "Why so serious?" would have been a more apt description of me. I credit the people behind and in Supernatural with inspiring me to reinvent my whole perspective on work and on play and on friendships. I struggle to explain to my family and non-Supernatural friends just what this show means to me. My current coworkers kind of get it. Some of them watch the show and really enjoy it. None of them is into it to the extent I am, but they get it. And that is another gift this show gave me. A workplace and coworkers who celebrate and encourage idiosyncrasies and passion. My story is not extraordinary. I know many others have had more intense experiences. However, it was through this show that I discovered my community and I rediscovered my passions. I found a way to turn a miserable work life into a supporting and life-affirming environment. I learned what true leadership was like. I learned that having fun was not just for children and was an essential part of life. I learned that it was okay to be silly. My involvement with this show helped me save my sanity and find my happiness. I have been working in IT for most of my professional life. I found my way into IT because I was a geek. I grew up with computers in our home, in the years before home computers were commonplace. I was a girl during a time when girls weren't supposed to like technology or science fiction, but I loved both. I also loved to draw and to take photographs. While most of that fit in with my parents and two brothers, I was the only girl in that family, and all of the girls I knew were more interested in playing with Barbies than Star Trek. And when older, they were more interested in makeup, school dances, and boys than in computers and theater, movies, TV, and art. I adjusted and didn't share my inner passions with very many people. After school, I found my professional niche in IT and thrived. I married and had kids. Gradually, I moved into management positions and adopted a stereotypical professional business persona. Over 20 years, I had slowly convinced myself that I was someone I was not. I had fooled myself into thinking that my childhood and young adult love of sci-fi, and my other interests in live theater, movies, TV, photography, and art were a phase I had outgrown. Art and...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?